we live in a moment of such organized greed and weaponized hatred, and people are obsessed with having a brand rather than being tied to a cause. Young folk walk up to me, "Oh, I love your brand." I say, no, I ain't got no brand. My folk came on slave ships and they were branded. I ain't gonna be just another brand. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Now, a brand is a market strategy for your career, a cause or something you live and die for that has to do with a vision for goodness and beauty and justice.
My name is Kirsten West. I am VP of Content at I1 Digital, and I am here with the renowned and beloved scholar, Dr. Cornel West. He is the author of 20 books, including Race Matters and Democracy Matters, his memoir, Brother West, Living and Loving Out Loud, and his most recent book, Black Prophetic Fire. Dr. West, one of the things I want to make clear in this moment is that I am a journalist, yes, but in this place, I am leaning into being a Black woman from Mississippi first and foremost. And Ida B. Wells taught us that we have a responsibility to be both righteous and rigorous. And she said she risked her life to tell half the truth, so she knew she had to tell the whole truth. And no one has been more committed to truth than you. Thank you for being with me today.
Wow, those words mean very much, though, my dear Sister Kirsten. They really do. And I salute you. I salute Sister Kathy Hughes and all of those who facilitate these kinds of coming togethers for truth-seeking conversations. And I think you might be my cousin.
I know you're my cousin.
I'm telling you.
I've called it.
The best of not just Mississippi, the best of Louisiana.
Okay.
My folk from Louisiana, you see.
Yes.
So it's as the slide says, it's a family affair.
It is. Thank you so much. And I want to jump right into it because there are a couple of things that's happening. I'll give you a definition. The FBI defines terrorism, domestic or international, as the unlawful use of force or violence against persons or property to intimidate or coerce a government or civilian population in furtherance of political or social objectives. But on December 4th, 1969, the government and police were colluding to kill Fred Hampton and Brother Mark Clark. We see today we have militarized forces invading DC with the Democratic mayor's support. In LA, masked ICE agents are kidnapping people off the street. Free speech that does not align with this fascist regime currently in the White House is under assault. I could go on. But if we are to believe the FBI's definition of terrorism, then we know what's going on here, right?
That's exactly right.
And if it's nothing else, it's monstrous.
That's the right word. Monstrous, calamitous, barbaric. But we should never forget Malcolm X's last speech that he gave in Rochester just a few days before he was shot down in Ottoman Room. He said that there's a war against Black people, a war against poor people, a war against oppressed people. And for Black people, it's been going on 400 years.
Yeah.
You see, barbaric white supremacist slavery was nothing but a form of terrorism. Jim and Jane Crow, for another 100 years of neo-slavery. That is a form of domestic terrorism. When police shoot down our precious brothers and sisters and siblings, that is a form of terrorism. The Black freedom movement has always been a counter-terrorist movement. NAACP was founded in response to what? White terrorism in Springfield, Illinois.
Yeah.
See what I mean? Marcus Garvey responding to what? The vicious attacks on Black folk in the Red Summer of 1917 and 1919. Remember what those sisters, Josephine Baker said?
Yeah.
The very idea of America makes me shake and tremble and gives me nightmares. And what did she do? She went to Paris for the rest of her life. So that we have to be willing to tell the truth and say, look, when you talk about terrorism, let us understand that based on that definition, Black folk have been dealing with it for 400 years. And we have to come up with counter-terrorist visions, strategies, tactics, but not just that. But we got to come up with Black love, Black respect, Black dignity that sustains us and fortifies us in the face of terrorism.
Yeah.
Because once you give up and sell out, or just completely cave in, then you become a collaborator of the very terrorism that's trying to destroy your people.
So I want to talk about collaborators in a second, and I think about Some have said that white Christian nationalism is kind of this benign euphemism for what's going on. And I personally believe that that's because they don't understand the violence, structure, or otherwise, that whiteness, Christianity, and nationalism has inflicted upon Black people. So can you talk a little bit about that? When people talk about white Christian nationalism, what are we really naming?
But we should call it white supremacist Christian nationalism, you see. See, whiteness in and of itself could still lead toward a John Brown. He was white in solidarity with Black folk, willing to give his life. White supremacist Christianity, which has been the dominant form of Christianity in the history of the country, on the vanilla side, on the white sides of town. There's always some counter-terrorist who themselves, out of love of Black people, side with the Martin Kings. We could think, for example, of Miles Horton. You could think of Rabbi Heschel. You could think of Ann Braden. We know a number of white brothers and sisters who decided to go against the dominant grain of their community and their families and churches. But just whiteness in and of itself, it needs to be specified as white supremacist. Because see, that's a choice. You got to choose to be a gangster, choose to be a thug, choose to be a hater of Black people. You know what I mean? And then we have to choose to fight it.
To follow up on that just a little bit, because when I think of whiteness as a social and political construct, whiteness itself was meant to be destructive, no?
Well, I think that, coming
as
out
a structure.
There's whiteness as a description, there's whiteness as a normative claim, you see. If you're born in Europe, you're shaped by white supremacist culture, but the very fact of being white in and of itself is a description. That's not necessarily a norm. You can choose, you could be white and choose against white supremacy. And we never ever want to trump that particular option, but it works the same on the Black side of town too, you see. That you got folk who's, well, I'm not Black. Well, you sure look Black to me. You know, you're as beautiful as Isaac Hayes and Nina Simone's. Well, why come you don't want Black? Well, because they think it's normative. Then I have to do X with Black and Y with Black. No, that's a choice. You could be as beautiful as Nina Simone and still decide to be a collaborator.
That's true, which leads me to one thing that is clear to me, and I know you talked about this a little bit too, is that the diversification of white supremacy is necessary for its survival. It's not just going to be white people. It's going to be people upholding white supremacist policies. And we know all skin folk and kin folk. We've seen it time and time again.
That's right.
So the question I have here is, there are some of us willing to be bound to the white moderate Dr. King warned us about, versus this solidarity with the growing multi-ethnic, multiracial coalition. There's a lot of talk still about a collective we. When you say we need, who's the we you're talking about?
Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful question, because there are a number of we's. Again, there's a we that has to do with those who are willing to fight with you and be comrades. And for me as a Christian, the we is first and foremost the least of these. What you do unto me, you do unto the least of these. Who are the least of these? The prisoners, the brothers and sisters in the hood, dealing with decrepit education, dealing with inadequate health care, taught to hate themselves, but still responding with a dignity and responding with a creativity, sometimes just outright Black genius like a Curtis Mayfield or a Aretha Franklin or John Coltrane. But there's another we, which is part of humanity, right? And as human beings, I believe each human being is made in the image and the likeness of an almighty God that endows them with a dignity and a sanctity. You see, and that's true no matter who they are as human beings. So you got we in terms of forms of communities that have been thoroughly hated, terrorized, and traumatized, oppressed, and degraded. Then you got all of humanity, and that's why solidarity. That's why I talk about solidarity with Palestinians under a vicious attack and genocidal assault and so forth. I talk about Dalits in India. I talk about landless peasants in Brazil. I talk about poor white brothers and sisters in Appalachia who are suffering, like the Miles Hortons, who are willing to be in solidarity with Black folk. That's a moral and spiritual affair. But I also recognize where I come from. You see, I come from a great Black people. You see, and that's what's running through my heart and soul and mind. That's Irene West, Clifton West, that's Shiloh Baptist Church, that's the Black Panther Party, and that's the Black musical tradition, which is the greatest tradition of the modern world in terms of artistic genius and spiritual fortitude and moral courage. That's the blues, that's gospel, that's spiritual, that's jazz, that's hip hop, that's across the board. But we still have to make some moral, spiritual judgments, which means we can still be critical of other Black folk. Because as we know, courage is not widespread. I don't care what color people are. Most people don't want to sacrifice and give their lives. Most people don't want to hear the whole truth about themselves.
This is true.
You know what I mean?
And that is a question that I've always had around political duopoly, right?
Yes.
And political parties. And those who believe in freedom, we understand that we have to fight back against these systems that are trying to destroy us regardless of who is in power.
That's right.
There's no convenient time. There are some Democrats who will say, the absence of tension is the presence of justice, and we know that's a lie, right?
Isn't that the truth? You got Brother Martin King.
You hear me, right? You hear me?
Oh, you got Brother Martin shot through you.
A little bit.
No, not a little bit. You got a whole lot.
So I think about the facade of democracy has crumbled. What will we build in its place?
Yeah, see, that's a tough one. Because we live in a moment of such organized greed and weaponized hatred. And people are obsessed with having a brand rather than being tied to a cause. Young folk walk up to me, oh, I love your brand. I say, no, I ain't got no brand. No, my folk came on slave ships and they were branded.
Yes.
So I ain't gonna be just another brand.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I'm talking about now. A brand is a market strategy for your career. A cause is something you live and die for that has to do with a vision for goodness and beauty and justice. And so that means what? Well, then that means that how do we keep alive people who have a calling, not just career, people who have vocation, not just profession? How do we keep alive people who are committed to truth and integrity and honesty, not just getting over or obsessed with the 11th commandment, thou shalt not get caught?
Yeah.
Most people live a life these days of the 11th, beginning with the gangster in the White House. Say anything, do anything, no accountability, just concerned with one thing. I don't want to get caught.
Right.
And when he gets caught, he still gets away.
Yeah.
So far.
So far.
Oh no, not forever. God is not mocked.
Yeah.
People reap what they sow now.
So far.
Oh, but so far you've been able to get away with it.
Yeah.
That's true.
I think about Dr. King, and he said, all we say to America is be true to what you said on paper. And I think about that because so much of this country has been true to what it said on paper, right? There were the black codes that were on paper. We have, Adolf Hitler studied Jim and Jane Crow, not the other way around. So we're calling people Nazis, but they studied the United States of America. So that framework, right? On paper, we couldn't vote. There was convict leasing. In so many ways, that has been the case. So how important is it in this moment, Dr. West, that people get the language right? That we tell the truth about a nation that has been the refusal to deal with the flaws in its character. Like, this is a system that is functioning exactly as it was intended to function, right? I always say the system isn't broken, but it needs to be. So how do we reject this framing that this is, that what we're experiencing now is a bug, not a feature? Because Donald Trump doesn't happen in a silo.
No, that's real. That's very, very real. Marcus Garvey used to say the world has made being black a crime. I intend to make it a virtue. As long as black people in America, the vast majority will live lives of ruin and disaster. And the major problem facing black people is disorganization, because we don't respect each other enough. We can't generate bonds of trust strong enough to sustain this strong organization. Now, I'm not a Garveyite, but I love Marcus Garvey, because Garvey loved black people.
Right.
Now with King, he loved black people too. He had different kind of strategies, different kind of tactics, but King was much more of a patriot. You see, King really believed that America had the capacity to treat the masses of poor people and black people with dignity. And that evidence has not been shown to be the case. America has the capacity to create a space for the black middle classes if they're willing to assimilate themselves and become part of the rat race and become well-adjusted to injustice and well-adapted to indifference. But if their hearts and souls, like Martin's, and like Ella Bakers, Fannie Lou Hamers, and Ida B. Wells are with the least of these.
Yeah.
I'm talking about Precious Jamal and Letitia and Ray Ray and Babe Bruh on the block, in the churches, in the mosques, in the synagogue. That's the measure of progress.
Yeah.
It's not stock market. It's not black celebrities. You see. Now, that doesn't mean we hate black celebrities. I don't hate black celebrities. I try not to hate anybody. I'm trying to be true to Jesus, you know. But I recognize that the Garveyite challenge is a profound one.
Yeah. Because
Garvey was saying that the American experiment is a failure when it comes to black people, the masses of black people. He's still right at this point.
Do you think Dr. King would be a patriot today? I think about when he said his dream had turned into a nightmare. Remember that? And I think about when he said, I fear I'm integrating my people into a burning house.
Yes, he did.
Do you think he'd be a patriot today?
Well, I wrestle with this in the text, the radical King, while I bring together his writings and so forth. You know, King, in the end, was a Christian and was a free black man, and he loved black people and he loved oppressed people. So he would be critical of most forms of nationalism and patriotism. Yeah. But he emerges at a historical moment in the history of black people, where most of our leaders are still invested in the promise of America. Yeah. Benjamin Elijah Mays. You know what I mean? George Kelsey, Samuel Williams, all you Mohawk, Dorothy, Irene Height. I mean, these are towering figures. Yeah. But they still believed in the promise of America more than me, because I come after. Yeah. You know what I mean? I got Black Panther Party, and I got League of Revolutionary Black Workers, I got 1960s, 70s, and 80s. It's a different moment in that regard. It's like they into Nat King Cole, I'm into Luther Vandross, and into Teddy Pendergrass. Right. You know, so that the generation shifts. So your question is a deep one. What he would think today, it's hard to say. At the very end of his life, he knew that most of the forms of patriotism were too blinding. And certainly didn't say anything about precious indigenous peoples. Yeah. And the genocide against them. It is. That America sponsored, you see. Yeah. And, you know, the militarism around the world that America has. America's an empire that refuses to acknowledge it is an empire. And
he said that, right? The greatest purveyor of violence?
The greatest purveyor of violence in America is my own government. That's what Martin said. That's what Martin said. You're absolutely right. So it's hard to keep track of the genius of any of the black artists or leaders or activists or where they would be. You know what I mean? One thing we know is that they would love black folk. And when 100%. You love people, you're willing to tell the truth, risk, take be willing to pay a cost. And of course, you know, for a significant number of them, we're willing to die.
There's a question. I don't know if you know Ashley Woodard Henderson. She's co-director of the Highlander Center. You know, which trained
the great Highlander.
The Highlander
Miles
Center.
Horton.
Yes.
I was just talking about Miles Horton. Yes, indeed, indeed.
She said something that stuck with me once, and she talked about the differences between vision, strategy, and tactics. Yes. And how people confuse them. If you had to think of, this is my vision for this country, this is my strategy, and these are our tactics to get here, what would you recommend to people who are just, they don't know?
Well, when it comes to vision, I'm old school, coming out of Shiloh Baptist, which is to say I want a beloved community in which every human being would never experience poverty, would never have to worry about whether in fact their kids go to decrepit schools, whether in fact their communities are invested with crime and driven with, invest with drugs. Each human being would be able to live a life of decency and dignity. And I believe that for the world. That's the vision. Now the strategy is, oh Lord have mercy, look at this mess we got. Grotesque wealth inequality, predatory capitalism, 1% of the population own almost 50% of the wealth. I live in New York City, right in Harlem. 25% of folk in Manhattan live in poverty, but 1 out of 20 folk in Manhattan are millionaires. Yeah. But that's a key sweat moment. Something just ain't right.
Something ain't right.
It's sick. It's spiritually sick. And that's true for so many other places. So what is the strategy? Well, we got a variety of strategies. I don't believe that all black people ought to join one organization or be a member of one mosque, one church, or one temple. We have a variety of voices. What we need is solidarity with each other and solidarity with oppressed people around the world. Yeah. That's what the powers that be always tries to undercut and undermine. Can you imagine if Ida B. Wells and Du Bois and Garvey got together? Can you imagine if Martin and Malcolm and Ella Baker and Fannie Lou Hamer and the others got together? But they keep trying to create these deep divisions so we can't come together. And one of the reasons why the black press is so important, what you're doing here, what my dear brother Tavis Smiley's doing there, even my alpha brother Roland. You know, he and I don't agree on everything, but I love that brother, he loves me. We got our own disagreement. But they are black spaces where we can be free enough to raise our voices. He got William Barber's voice in his space. He's one of the most important prophetic voices out there. You know what I mean?
Love him, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got great voices in your space. We need more of those, but the attacks on black people often include the attacks on the spaces where we can be free and raise our voices. So I salute you and Sister Kathy, I do.
I think about, and you mentioned Palestine, I think about my colleagues, journalists in Palestine who have been killed for telling the truth.
Isn't that the truth?
And not enough people are talking about that. And it's the same way they weren't allowed on the DNC stage. It's the same way that the Democratic Party ignored the Arab voters in Dearborn, Michigan, and said that she was going to win. I'm like, you're not listening to people. Your numbers are telling you a story that the people aren't reflecting.
That is so true.
I think about not just the children, but the elders and the families in Palestine and what is going on across parties. That's not Christian. When I think about Israel bombing Bethlehem on Christmas Day and while Christians cheered about it, how important is this moment, Dr. West? There's some people who are like, what? It doesn't have anything to do with me. I'm like, how does it not? When those forces that overflow weaponry funds police departments in Ferguson and Chicago, and they're killing us too. How does it not?
Absolutely. And the connections between black folk here and the Palestinians there, and dollars in India and so forth. I mean, what you raise is, and it's overwhelming because it's beyond hypocrisy. It's monstrosity. That's what we're here to talk about tonight in Jimi Hendrix's town, in Quincy Jones's town of Seattle. That anybody who can stand by and see 25,000 Palestinian babies who have been murdered, didn't say maimed, murdered in a matter of months and not say a mumbling word is cowardly. And so that's a monstrosity, and people trying to hide it, they're trying to conceal it, and both parties don't want to touch it because both parties have facilitated that kind of genocidal attack. You see. So you are absolutely right. And it just means that we just need more courage. And we need people to expose and point out what's going on. You got journalists, well, almost 200 journalists have been killed. You got journalists in America. You one of the courageous ones to talk about it. Brother Tavis talks about it. There's some others, but not too many. But the same is true. Where is the doctors' associations that have condemned the demolishing of all the hospitals in Gaza? Where's the professors? 13 universities destroyed. We are for academic freedom and the sacredness of universities. 13 universities have been completely destroyed. What do you say? Crickets. No comment. See, that's spiritually sick. It really is. And of course, the other infrastructures too, the homes and so forth and so on. But here in America, we talk so in highfalutin language about our commitment to universities and journalists and hospitals, and when in fact U.S. money and U.S. military equipment is used to level them out completely, along with almost 75,000 innocent folk, and they can't say a word, you say now. See, this kind of cowardliness cannot stand. And they'll say, oh, Brother West, you sound like you anti-Semitic, you anti-Jewish. No, not at all. If it were happening to Jews, I would say the same thing.
Absolutely.
But America knows that if Palestinians were doing that to Jews, the U.S. Congress, the president, the population would go ballistic. You know what I mean? If Africans were doing it to Europeans, you and I would be on the run because they have a...
they're looking for a reason anyway.
Well, that's true too.
So.
That's true. That's true too. So we just had to point out that kind of hypocrisy and monstrosity.
100%.
But we have to do it in such a way that we don't drink from the cup of any bitterness, because we come from a great people of love and joy. a great people of integrity.
Yeah.
It ain't the first time we've been hated. We've been here for 400 years.
Right.
And here come John Coltrane's Love Supreme, speak on behalf of the greatness of a people. You know what I mean? That's what we always need. That's part of our vision.
Yeah.
That's part of our vision.
So James Baldwin said, "You always told me it takes time. It's taking my father's time, my mother's time, my uncle's time, my brothers and sisters' time, my nieces and my nephews' time. How much time do you want for your progress?"
Ooh.
Dr. West, are we running out of time?
Lord James Baldwin, the son of Harlem, the genius and giant that he was. The self-destructiveness of the American empire, with all of its hatred and greed and denial, and the ways in which the species itself, with ecological catastrophes, seems to be leading towards self-destruction. And then our own communities, so often caving in too much to conformity and complacency and cowardliness and the self-destructiveness that we see within Black America. How do we serve as counter examples?
Yeah.
And I just don't know, in all honesty. You see, Martin Luther King said the arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice. I don't know about that, Brother Martin.
Yeah.
Now, I believe in a God.
Right.
Absolutely, I believe in a God. But God's self might say, I'm gonna break your back, American empire. You're reaping what you sow. The chickens are coming home to roost.
Being an old farm girl like myself.
Oh, coming out of Mississippi. Lord, that's Richard Wright. That's Howlin' Wolf.
Yeah, Howlin' Wolf.
Oh, Lord, yes. Indeed. See, that's Sam Cooke out of Clarksdale, right?
Is Sam Cooke out of Clarksdale? You wanna tell me something?
David
I think so.
Ruffin singing lead for the Temptation. He out of Why Not, Mississippi.
Now, I heard of that one.
You know Why Not?
It's close to moonshine, I believe.
David Ruffin. Ain't too proud to beg. No, Mississippi got more genius than any other state. But
yeah, we got to cut that one so everybody sees it. I want everybody to see the genius that comes out of Mississippi.
Oh no, it's undeniable.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's undeniable. Aretha Franklin's father, Reverend C.L. Franklin, come out of Mississippi. Oh my God! And even on the vanilla side, you got Faulkner in the novel. You got Eudora Welty in the short story. You got Tennessee Williams when it comes to writing plays. No other state can claim that kind of genius at all. But on the other hand, Black folk caught more hell in Mississippi.
I wonder if there's a correlation between that, right?
Yeah, I think there probably
gotta be.
South Carolina is highly competitive.
Yeah,
in terms of catching the hell. But Black folk been catching hell across the country. But Mississippi is a special. Me and Brother Eddie Glaude, who's from Mississippi. We talk about this all the time. I love my brother. Yeah, no, Mississippi is a special. That's why I started my campaign. Right there in Lexington, Mississippi, in honor of Fannie Lou Hamer. Absolutely. Went to Brandon, went to Jackson, and had a smile on my face, but I could see
it's a lot.
Suffering.
It's on the wind, you feel it in the trees, you feel it in the ways that we have antebellum homes everywhere that they want to love on and remember fondly where the old South still lives. And it's a lot, but you know what, like you said, that genius, that resilience is a word that's overused, but I feel it deeply. That revolutionary spirit that we will shoot back of Mississippi, you can't take it away. So I'm glad you started your campaign there. And I think about the faith in Mississippi, right? To bring us back to faith in the time of monsters. There have been studies, anecdotal and otherwise, that show that Black people pray the most in this country. Yet, when you look at education, you look at healthcare, you look at housing, all these things, we catch the most hell. For those who are Christian, how would you encourage them to keep faith in the time of monsters, Dr. West?
Well, you know, the great Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Ture used to say that we got to organize as much as we pray.
Faith without works, right?
That's exactly right. We got to mobilize as much as we sing. You need both.
Yeah.
You've got to have both. But on the other hand, it's also true that, you see, the genius of Mississippi, of course, Chicago ain't nothing but Mississippi North. We know that. The Curtis Mayfield said, keep on pushing. I mean, part of what he had in mind and all of his genius was, you see, we historically have always had something that made us rich that money can't buy.
Right.
That's love.
Yeah.
That's style. That's joy.
Yeah.
And we got a joy and a love that Trump, fascism, white supremacy can never take away.
That's right.
Because they didn't give it to us. And as long as we hold on to that love and joy, we can bear witness. And we only call here to bear, we only call to bear witness. None of us are messiahs. We ain't gonna save the world.
Yeah.
We here to leave it a little bit better than we found.
Right.
That I used, my folks used to say in Shiloh,
Right.
if the kingdom of God is within you, then everywhere you go, you ought to leave a little heaven behind, Cornel.
That's right.
Kirsten, leaving that heaven behind. I'm trying to leave a little heaven behind. And we know the left behind that I to be where else left.
That's right.
And so many other great
That's
ones.
right.
A lot of the nameless ones and folks whose names we don't know, but who loved us. So, you know.
You know, Mary Baraka told us, don't let them steal our own boom ba boom, right?
Ooh, that's another towering one.
I know.
He had a Bethany Baptist church. His father was old man Jones on the deacon board when he was Leroy Jones.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, and Brother Roz and the family's still going strong. Sister Amina, thank God Almighty, still going strong. But no, Mary Baraka is one of our great ones as well, and he loved us.
Yeah.
He really did.
Well, Dr. West, before we close, I want to thank you for your genius and for your brilliance and for your consistency. You have been and remain a North Star for so many. And I think about what history will say about you. People, they laugh sometimes and they say, Jeremiah Wright was right. And I think about you and the arrows that you have taken, and you have consistently stood tall in rooms that have tried to minimize your work. And I want you to know your impact matters, your voice matters, your presence matters, that we feel it every day, and you have kept a lot of us going. So I appreciate you deeply. And I'm thankful that you took the time today to speak with me.
Ooh, your words, they mean so much.
Thank you.
Really.
It's an honor.
Because you and I know that, you know, we've had so much poured into us
Yes.
by our loved ones.
Yes.
So that nobody, black people, they can never say anything, say or do anything against me for me to stop loving black people.
That's right.
You see what I mean?
That's right.
And that's a beautiful thing because it frees you up. You're not enslaved to hatred. You're freed up to love no matter what.
Absolutely.
And it's got much to do with the blood of the cross for me as a Christian, but Malcolm had it and he was a Muslim. Bell Hooks had it and she was Buddhist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Baldwin had it and he was agnostic, but he come out of the church.
Yes.
Choosing to fight. So I salute you. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. West. Thank you.
Definitely.
Again, my name is Kirsten Westavalle. I'm VP of Content here at I1 Digital, and I'm here with the phenomenal Dr. Cornel West. Thank you all so much for joining us.